My wife laughed, but her eyes didn't. That's what I remember most about that Tuesday night. The way she looked across the living room at our daughter, smiling, playing along. But behind her smile was something tight, distant, like she was already somewhere else. We were on the phone, Morgan and I, casually chatting on speaker while I crawled through bumper-to-bumper traffic on I-70. I'd called to see if they'd eaten yet. Emma, our 10-year-old, had a habit of hijacking the phone, and tonight was no different. "Hi, Daddy," she shouted through the Bluetooth, giggling. "Guess what we did today?" "Let me guess," I said. "You built another glitter bomb, and your teacher quit on the spot." She laughed hard. Morgan joined in, her voice light, airy. "Close," she said. "They made volcanoes in science. Real ones, with vinegar and baking soda. Exploding kitchen style? You know it," Emma said. Mine went all over my desk. It was awesome. I smiled and eased up on the brake. Normal day. Familiar voices. It felt warm. But then, like a needle in a soft blanket, Emma blurted something that didn't fit. "Mommy told me a secret." I chuckled. "Oh yeah? What kind of secret?" Morgan's voice jumped in, sharp and cheerful. "Emma." But Emma kept going. "She said you're the biggest idiot in the world, but it's okay, 'cause we're gonna be rich soon." The car went quiet. Even the road noise seemed to fall away. Morgan's laugh came next, forced, high-pitched. "Emma, that's not what I said." "Yes, huh?" Emma argued. "You said it after your Zoom call with Mr. Josh. Remember?" There it was. Not a name I knew. Not a name I liked. I didn't say anything. I didn't laugh. Neither did Morgan. After a moment, I heard her sigh. A long, slow, tired exhale. "Emma," she said. "Give me the phone, sweetie." There was a pause, shuffling sounds, the faint rustle of a shirt. Then I heard her say it. He hung up. She thought the call had ended. But I didn't hang up. "My name's Kyle Brennan. 39. IT guy. I live just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. I know how Bluetooth works, and I know how to use silence. Morgan doesn't. She thought because I went quiet, I was gone. But I heard everything. And what I heard shattered something in me. She was still chuckling, that kind of jittery, post-screw-up laughter people use to cover panic. "Oh God," she said to Emma. "He probably thinks we're joking." "Are we?" Emma asked. Morgan didn't answer. Instead, she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "He's so checked out, he doesn't even notice anything anymore." My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. Then, lower, like she thought Emma wouldn't understand, or like she forgot children remember everything, Morgan added. "Josh says once the papers are filed, we can just start fresh. Be done with all this." Emma asked, "Are we going to live with Mr. Josh?" Another pause. Morgan's voice got softer. "Maybe. Someday. It's complicated. You'll understand when you're older." And then she whispered something that didn't sound like it was meant for anyone to hear. "Soon this will all be over." I pulled off the highway and into a gas station, parked between two semis, and sat in silence. My face felt hot, my chest cold. Josh. Papers. Start fresh. Those words looped in my mind like bad code, repeating, cycling, corrupting everything I thought I knew. Emma's voice was back. "Mommy, is Daddy still on the phone?" "No, sweetie," Morgan said. He hung up. Probably didn't hear any of that. She was wrong, and she had no idea how wrong she was. When I finally walked through the front door an hour later, everything looked normal. Emma was on the couch with her tablet. Morgan was in the kitchen, sipping wine, asking me how traffic was. I told her it was bad, just like always. She leaned up and kissed my cheek like she had 1,000 times before. I smiled back like I always did. But something inside me had shifted. That night, I sat in bed pretending to scroll through Reddit while Morgan typed away on her laptop beside me. She said she had a deadline. I nodded like I believed her. She was texting, smiling, quiet little smiles. Mr. Josh, I assumed. I watched her from the corner of my eye. Studied her. It wasn't just tonight. This had been building. 3 weeks ago, I noticed she'd started locking the bedroom door during Zoom meetings. Said it was client confidentiality. A few days after that, she bought new lingerie but didn't wear it around me. Her perfume changed. Her gym visits became more frequent, even though I never saw sweat on her when she came home. But tonight was different. Tonight, I wasn't wondering. I knew. I waited until she fell asleep. Then I got up, quietly, and walked to her office. She always left her laptop charging at her desk. Password was Emma's birthday. Too easy. I clicked through folders. First, the obvious stuff: documents, invoices, video files. Nothing. Then I opened her email. Bingo. A string of messages between her and Josh M. I read them one by one. You looked so good in that black dress today. Can't believe you wore it just for me. Don't worry about Kyle. He's harmless. He wouldn't know how to leave if you gave him a map. Next week, I'll call my guy about the lease. Once we have that apartment, everything changes. After the settlement, we'll be free. Finally. I stared at the screen, letting the words burn themselves into my brain. I wasn't just being cheated on. I was being erased. Strategically. Silently. She had plans. A whole exit strategy. And I was the last to know. When I walked back into the bedroom, Morgan rolled over in her sleep and reached toward my side of the bed. Kyle. Yeah, I said. She mumbled something about picking Emma up from school tomorrow, then went quiet again. I watched her for a long time. This woman who I thought I'd grow old with. Who I bought this house with. Who I stood next to in a hospital room 10 years ago and cried with when Emma was born. I didn't feel anger. Not yet. I felt something colder. A stillness. Like standing in a room after the music stops. The next morning, I got Emma ready for school. Packed her lunch. Kissed her forehead. Morgan was already gone when I came back inside. Said she had a branding brunch with a new client. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table in silence. Her ring was on the counter. Again. No note. No apology. Just placed there. Almost like a symbol. That's when it clicked. She was already halfway out the door. She thought she was clever. That I was slow. That I'd figure it out after the paperwork was signed. After she'd moved in with Josh and rewritten the story of us into something more convenient. But she forgot something. I don't react fast. I move slow. Steady. And I listen better than anyone realizes. She thought the call ended when she said, "He hung up." But I didn't. I disappeared, but not physically. I disappeared in the way that matters more. I let her win arguments I didn't start. I let her control the thermostat, the dinner plans, the calendar invites, and even the playlist during our Saturday cleaning routines. I smiled more than usual. I asked less. I nodded at the right moments. I stopped checking the shared credit card. I stopped logging into the bank account. I was still there every morning in the kitchen, frying eggs and packing Emma's lunch like nothing had changed. But that man wasn't really me anymore. That man had died on the highway. The moment he heard his daughter say, "Mommy said we're going to be rich soon." One morning, as Morgan walked past me holding her makeup bag and phone, I caught her watching me in the reflection of the hallway mirror. Just for a moment. I didn't flinch. I kept buttering the toast and humming along to the radio. She looked away like she hadn't been watching. But I knew she was trying to see if I'd cracked yet. I hadn't. Not even close. It was right around then I reached out to Noah. My old college roommate. Used to crash on my couch with Cheetos on his chest. Now runs a cybersecurity firm with clients in government and finance. We hadn't talked in years, but he owed me. I didn't say much in the message. Just, need a quiet favor. I'll explain in person. He sent me a location, an old steakhouse off I-44, the kind of place with low lighting and wood-paneled booths that hadn't changed since the 90s. When I slid into the booth, he gave me a look that was part curious, part cautious. I laid out the situation, what I knew, what I suspected, and what I needed. After a long pause, he leaned back, arms folded. "You sure you want to go this deep?" I stared at him. "Because this is scorched earth stuff, Kyle. This isn't some stupid online argument. You're setting fire to your whole life." "I'm not lighting anything," I said. "I'm just watching where the gasoline's already pooled." He shook his head, gave a low whistle. "Damn, you always were the quiet one." I forgot what that meant. Another pause. Then he said, "Okay, I'll help you. But you don't get to act surprised if this gets messy. The deeper I dig, the more ugly you're going to find." "I'm counting on it." He passed me a burner flash drive, already encrypted, already rigged to scrub if accessed without authorization. "Don't lose this," he said. I didn't. Back home, Morgan had begun her little glow-up parade. The podcast mic arrived first, sleek, matte black, some high-end model she didn't know how to use until she watched a YouTube tutorial. Then came the softbox lights, the camera, The minimalist inspo signs she pinned up in her office. Live boldly, aligned energy only, be your brand. I listened to her record the trailer one night while I was in the next room helping Emma with math homework. Her voice was smooth, artificial, coached. This podcast is for women ready to walk away from half-lives, to claim the space they've been denied, to finally choose themselves. The irony didn't even sting anymore. It just confirmed what I already knew. Morgan wasn't trying to repair anything. She was building an audience, prepping her version of the story. But the slip-up came that Thursday. Emma was on the couch playing Minecraft. I was in the kitchen installing a security update on our shared iPad, an older model Emma mostly used for games. I had it plugged in, screen lit, when a notification banner popped up. It was from Messages. Josh M. Got the room. Saturday. Same hotel as Chicago. God, I can't wait to feel your legs around me again. I froze. And then I looked across the room, where Morgan stood over the coffee table with her back to us, flipping through design samples for her new logo. Her phone was in her hand. She was laughing softly at something. She had no idea her last text reply synced across all our devices. Probably hadn't updated her privacy settings since I first set it up for her 3 years ago. I didn't say a word. I copied the message, saved a screenshot, dropped it onto the encrypted drive Noah gave me. Then I handed the iPad back to Emma. Here you go, kiddo. She smiled, eyes never leaving the screen. Thanks, Daddy. But later that night, after dinner, she asked something that cut me more than any of Morgan's lies ever could. Daddy, yeah, honey, did I do something wrong? I looked up from the sink, heart thudding. Why would you ask that? Mommy's always mad lately, she said, and she doesn't eat dinner with us anymore. Did I mess something up? I dried my hands and knelt in front of her. No, I said, you didn't do anything wrong. Grown-ups sometimes make weird choices when they're tired or stressed, but none of this is your fault. Okay. She nodded slowly. Okay, but do you still like Mommy? That one I couldn't answer, so I hugged her instead. 3 days later, Morgan posted a photo of a champagne flute on her Instagram story with the caption, celebrating new beginnings. Hashtag alignment, hashtag no looking back. Her followers dropped heart emojis and fire reactions. She replied to every single one. I watched her do it while pretending to scroll on my phone from across the living room. She had no idea I could see her screen mirrored in the reflection of the TV. That night, a flower delivery showed up at our door. Emma opened it, curious. The card read, "To new chapters. Can't wait to read yours. Jay." Morgan's smile cracked, just slightly, when she realized it had been addressed to Mrs. M. Brennan. Emma looked confused. Who's Jay? Morgan laughed a little too loud. Just a client. I took the card from her hand before she could tuck it away. Beautiful arrangement, I said. You gonna keep these in your office? She hesitated. Actually, maybe in the bedroom. Good call, I said. They'll last longer in the dark. She glanced at me sharply, but I was already walking away. Noah's next message arrived 2 days after that. Short and direct. Her lawyer has a draft. Filing in 39 days. She doesn't know we accessed the doc yet. I was standing at the window watching Morgan take a call on the patio, her laptop perched on the little bistro table I built with Emma last spring. Her tone was excited, animated. She was nodding a lot, gesturing like she was on a video call with someone important. I could barely hear her through the glass, but one phrase slipped through. Once we lock down the lease, he's out. I already talked to the mediator. Should be smooth. She spun her wine glass between her fingers like it was a victory trophy. I watched her for a while. When she came back inside, I was still at the window. She smiled. You okay? Just thinking, I said. About what? Next month, I said. Feels like a big one. She tilted her head, half smile curling her lips. It is. Then she walked past me, humming something light and tuneless. That night, while brushing her teeth, she said over her shoulder, I was thinking we should repaint the guest room. Yeah, I said, drying my hands. Just feels heavy in there. Stale. Fresh starts, I said. Right. She met my eyes in the mirror for a split second, something unreadable flashing behind hers. Then she said, exactly. She climbed into bed, pulled the covers up, turned on her meditation app. I lay beside her, eyes open in the dark, and I thought about what Noah said. You're setting fire to your whole life. Maybe I was. But maybe that was the only way to make something worth walking through. The next morning, I got into my car 15 minutes earlier than usual. I pulled into a private office park 2 towns over, where a family law firm operated discreetly out of a beige one-story building with no sign out front. The receptionist already had my name. Mr. Brennan. Right this way. Inside the conference room sat a calm-looking attorney in his 50s with silver-rimmed glasses and a laptop already open. I understand you've been documenting quite a bit, he said. I have, I told him. And I'm ready to move. He nodded. Let's get started then. And as I stepped back into the sunlight afterward, a single line echoed in my head, one I knew she'd never see coming. 39 days left, and every one of them had a purpose. It started like termites, silent, hidden, nothing you'd notice unless you were looking for it. Morgan's little online empire looked pristine from the outside, but I could hear the wood creaking beneath her. Her eyes twitched more when she opened her inbox. Her clicks got louder, sharper. She started rereading things twice, then 3 times. I watched her watching her own world, like she could feel it slipping through her fingers, but didn't know why. She was recording a podcast episode the first time the floor gave out. I was upstairs putting away laundry when I heard her curse under her breath, loud enough that I paused with a pair of folded jeans in my hands. Downstairs, the audio had frozen mid-recording. The software locked, crashed, and when it rebooted, her entire draft was gone. 2 hours of scripted empowerment monologue, wiped like it never existed. She sat frozen in the office chair for a good 2 minutes, breathing shallow, one hand still resting on the mouse like she was afraid to move. I walked in with a fresh pair of socks in my hand. Everything all right? She flinched. Yeah, just tech crap. It's fine. But her voice was thin, and her eyes didn't meet mine. Later that week, she opened a browser tab and her branded landing page redirected to a 404 error. I was sitting across from her at the table. I didn't say a word. She refreshed it again. Same error. Again. Nothing. She shut her laptop slowly, got up, and poured herself a full glass of wine before noon. Didn't bother hiding it. The next day, her phone buzzed during breakfast. A sponsor she'd been bragging about, some eco-luxury brand she was pitching to, emailed to say they were reconsidering due to what they called concerns about content alignment. Morgan stared at her screen like it was written in another language. Emma looked up from her cereal and asked, "What's wrong, Mommy?" "Nothing," she said too quickly. "It's just spam." But her fingers trembled when she put the phone down. By the following Tuesday, her confidence had thinned out into ritual. She still posted selfies, still said things like, "No one can shake a woman who knows her worth." But her captions were shorter, more defensive. Her videos were heavily edited now. Cut, reshot, overly bright. She was cracking, but quietly, silently, just like I wanted. That Thursday, I ran into Josh. It felt coincidental, but nothing in this phase was really accidental anymore. I was pushing Emma's cart through the store. She was off school for a teacher work day, and we were halfway down the cereal aisle when I heard that unmistakable voice behind me. "Well, look who it is." I turned and there he was. Josh. Slim-fit blazer over a graphic tee, expensive sneakers, smug smile. The kind of guy who bought sunglasses he couldn't pull off, but wore them anyway. He looked relaxed. Too relaxed. "Hey man," he said, like we were buddies running into each other at a college reunion. "Didn't expect to see you out here." I nodded once. "Josh." He glanced down at Emma, then back to me, like he wasn't sure how much she knew. "Nice day for some shopping," he said, tone light but probing. I didn't give him anything. Just said, "Always is." He chuckled. "You know, things got a little tense for a while. I've been meaning to reach out. Clear the air." "Have you?" I asked. "Yeah," he said, scratching the back of his neck. "I mean, people change. Life moves on. Morgan's been doing some amazing stuff. Real growth, you know? You too. I mean, it's all good, right?" His words were measured, just vague enough to avoid an admission, but just bold enough to see how I'd react. I stared at the box of frosted flakes in my hand and said, "You ever played chess, Josh?" He blinked. "A little, why? You ever seen someone smile while they're losing?" He opened his mouth, but I kept going. Most people only realize they're in checkmate when it's too late to move. He didn't laugh this time. He swallowed hard and shifted his weight. I smiled. Take care, Josh. Emma looked up at me as we walked away. Was that one of Mommy's friends? Something like that, I said. That night, Morgan snapped at Emma during dinner. Over nothing. Emma was humming. Just a little tune she'd made up while drawing with her markers at the table, and Morgan slammed her fork down. Can you stop that, please? It's giving me a headache. Emma's eyes went wide. Sorry, she mumbled, going quiet. I reached across the table and touched her hand. You didn't do anything wrong, I said, looking directly at Morgan. Morgan stared at her plate like it had insulted her. Later, I heard her whispering on the phone in the office. The door was cracked open just enough that I could hear pieces. I don't know what's happening. Things keep breaking. Pause. No, I can't prove it. That's the worst part. It's like I'm being watched. Another pause. Kyle? No, he's being normal. Too normal. That's what freaks me out. She stopped talking the second I walked in with a laundry basket. Eyes darted up. Smile too wide. Hey, she said, voice airy. Just chatting with Melanie about our next podcast series. Sounds important, I said, walking past. She said nothing else until the call disconnected. The next day, Emma said something that stopped me in my tracks. We were walking home from the park, her little hand in mine, swinging between us. The sun was warm. It was quiet. Too quiet. She said, Mommy told me sometimes dads don't get to stay when moms are mad. I looked down at her, trying to hide the sting in my chest. When did she say that? Last week, when I asked if we were still a family. I didn't answer right away. I just tightened my grip on her hand and kept walking. Then I said, whatever happens, you and me, that's not changing. She nodded, but I could see the confusion in her eyes. That was Morgan's real damage. Not just cheating. Not just lying. She was rewriting reality for the one person who still believed in fairy tales. I knew then that Act 4 wouldn't just be revenge. It would be protection. 2 days later, Morgan's Instagram story cut out mid-video. Her followers messaged her asking if she'd been hacked. She deleted all her old tweets. The ones about leaving what no longer serves you and trusting the energy. Gone. That night, I heard her crying in the bathroom with the water running. The next morning, I made her coffee. She took it in silence. No eye contact. No words. Then she asked, casually, do you think people can sense when they're being punished for something? I stirred my own cup. Maybe. Or maybe they just think karma moves slower than it does. She looked at me long and hard. I didn't blink. Later, I heard her on the phone again. This time with her sister. I'm telling you, it's like the walls are shifting. Every day something else goes wrong. Like someone's tightening a rope around me, and I can't figure out who's holding it. She was unraveling. She just didn't know how much thread was left. The day before everything came down, she tried to act normal again. Wore makeup to breakfast. Hummed a song while she scrambled eggs. She even asked if I wanted to have dinner, just the two of us, that weekend. I said sure. Let's mark it on the calendar. She smiled, but her eyes didn't. Monday morning, 7:42 a.m., she got the first real hit. She was barefoot in the kitchen, hair still wet, chewing the same piece of toast for 5 straight minutes, staring at the screen like it had just confessed something unholy. I was nearby, pouring juice for Emma, when I heard her voice crack, just one brittle sound escaping her throat, half gasp, half curse. She read the email 3 times. Then she read it again out loud like she couldn't believe it was hers. Due to multiple flagged instances of improper sponsorship disclosures, your account has been temporarily suspended pending further review. She didn't even know what that meant exactly, but she knew it was bad. Jesus, she muttered, holding her forehead. I didn't say a word. I grabbed Emma's lunchbox, zipped it up, and waited. Morgan clicked something, stared harder, then slammed the laptop shut and sat down with her hands in her lap, like she was waiting for bad news to stop being real if she didn't touch it. I walked in casually, still holding Emma's lunch. You good? I asked. She blinked up at me. Her voice was low, flat, exhausted. I think someone's trying to destroy me. I tilted my head. That's a strong word. No, she said, standing up now, arms crossed tight over her chest. Something's wrong. Like, wrong. It's not just one thing, it's everything. Platforms, clients, file issues, login problems. I can't explain it, but it's real. And it's targeting me. I took a sip of coffee and kept my tone mild. That sounds scary. She looked at me harder than she had in weeks. Her voice dropped. Is it you? I stared at her for a second, not blinking, not smiling. Then I said, why would I waste time doing that? She opened her mouth, paused, then shut it again. There was a crack in her voice when she whispered, because I earned it. She walked upstairs without another word. That was the first time she admitted it. Not directly, but it was enough. The following day was a slow-motion breakdown. First, one of her coaching clients forwarded her screenshots of emails she never sent. Canceled sessions, refund confirmations. She ran to her phone, frantic, opening and closing apps like she could dig her way out if she just tapped fast enough. Then came the podcast takedown, violations of user agreement. The host site claimed some technical excuse she didn't understand but couldn't argue. She called the help desk and ended up yelling at a poor support rep who couldn't find her account. What do you mean it's been flagged? Flagged by who? She snapped into the speakerphone, her voice rising in a panic I hadn't heard from her since Emma was a toddler, and she lost her in a mall for 40 seconds. The call ended badly. She threw her phone, not hard enough to break it, just enough to feel like she could still throw something. When I picked Emma up from school, she sat in the back seat eating fruit snacks and asked, why is mommy crying in the bathroom? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I said, sometimes people think they can do whatever they want without consequences. And when the consequences show up, they panic. Emma squinted. What's a consequence? It's what happens when you forget how to treat people. She nodded and went back to her fruit snacks. That night, after Emma went to bed, Morgan cornered me in the kitchen. You did something, she said, no pretense left in her voice. I looked up from the sink and met her eyes. You remember when Emma made that volcano for science class? I asked. She blinked. What? The little one. Vinegar and baking soda. Foamed everywhere. She looked confused. Yes. What does that have to do with anything? She told me something while you were on that call with Josh. She said, Mommy said sometimes dads don't get to stay when moms are mad. You remember that? Morgan looked away. She must have misunderstood. She didn't. She was dead serious. And that's when I knew you weren't just cheating. You were rewriting the story. You weren't going to leave me. You were going to erase me, piece by piece. Just like you did at home, in your show, in front of our daughter. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean. You built your whole brand on lies, I said. So I just gave it the same foundation you gave me. That shut her up. She looked at me like she was seeing something that wasn't quite human anymore. Not rage. Not cruelty. Just patience. Something colder. Something that had waited, silently, just to choose the exact moment to speak. She stepped back. You're sick. I nodded slightly. So I've been told. The next morning, she deactivated her Instagram. An hour later, she posted a story, a still photo of her desk, one hand resting on a keyboard. Caption said, taking a break. Time to recenter. Love you all. The comments were supportive. They always are when someone disappears vaguely. No one asked questions. No one dug. That afternoon, a manila envelope showed up at the door. Not for me. It was for her. From one of her sponsors. Inside was a termination letter, a refund demand, and a printout of an email she allegedly sent calling them corporate vultures. She didn't send it, but it came from her server. She read it once. Then she sat down and didn't speak for almost an hour. The next day, she moved out. No drama. Just a suitcase, 2 boxes, and one last look at the house before walking out without saying goodbye. She left Emma with me for the week. I need time, was all her text said. I didn't reply. That night, I sat on the porch while Emma drew chalk hearts on the steps, and I finally opened the old text thread with Noah, the one I hadn't touched in weeks. I sent one message. All set. He replied with a thumbs up emoji. That was it. He never asked for credit. He never wanted praise. All he did was show me how to navigate the shadows, how to make digital noise look like human error. I handled the rest. The timing, the slow bleed, the precision. Revenge wasn't about hacking. It was about patience, knowing when to let the cracks widen, when to leave the rope loose enough to let her run full speed into the edge. She called me once after she left. Just once. I didn't answer. A week later, I moved into a smaller place. Nothing fancy. Just 2 bedrooms, one for me, one for Emma. I stocked it with her favorite snacks, hung her drawings on the wall, and tried to figure out how to braid her hair off a YouTube tutorial. We were eating pancakes on a Saturday morning when she asked, "Is Mommy coming over today?" I shook my head. "Not today, kiddo." She nodded. "Okay, I like it better when it's quiet anyway." I smiled, passed her the syrup. At drop-off the next week, Morgan stood by her car, sunglasses on, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her voice was flat when she said, "I'm not going to fight you on anything." "I know," I said. She looked at me long and hard. "You didn't even yell. You didn't even argue."